Hi, I'm Meredith Bell, and I am very excited today to have with me Lolly Daskal. Lolly is the founder and president of Lead From Within, and that is a global leadership consultancy. And what that means is Lolly is an executive coach. In fact, she's one of the most on-demand executive coaches that I know of. She also is an outstanding facilitator and just an amazing speaker. And Lolly and I have known each other now for several years on social media, and her writing is another aspect of who she is that I just love. She's been published on many of the major business publications, and I'm very excited to have her with me today because we're going to talk about her new book. And she has consolidated some of her most important learnings from her work with clients in this book. It's called The Leadership Gap: What Gets Between You and Your Greatness. Lolly, why don't you show us your book?
My book is right here, and yay!
Great. So welcome. So glad to have you here.
I'm so honored to be here. I love talking to you, Meredith.
Oh, thank you. Well, one of the first questions I want to ask you is, you and I are both, avid readers, and that's putting it mildly. And there are so many books already out about the topic of leadership. I wanted to find out, what is it that drew you to write a book, and why is yours different from all the other ones that are out there?
Thank you for that. That's a great question. So I've always wanted to write a book, but I didn't know what kind of book I wanted to write. Since I write many articles, I write up to 100 articles a month, I was thinking that it would be something like the 10 questions most leaders want to ask, or how to create great businesses. And I actually created a proposal of something just like that, a title just like that. And my agent started to shop around the proposal. And it was one publishing house that asked me a great question. They said, Lolly, what have you been doing all these years as a leadership coach? And I said, well, I've been teaching a rethink system with all my leaders, and I teach it to the organizations that I facilitate, do workshops with. And they said, why don't you write that book? And so that's how The Leadership Gap came about: what stands between you and your greatness.
Well, and I love that title because we often think about, things to strive for and a specific way to be, but thinking about what's keeping us from being that great person. And I just love the word greatness too. I think that really says a lot about where we can go, because we settle too much for things that aren't great. And so thinking about what you just said on your book, I'd like to have you just tell us, before we delve into the book itself, what is it about your work with leaders, who you work with, the kind of coaching that you provide, that would help us understand how you came up with your material?
So I coach Fortune 500 CEOs, and in the past 5 years, I've moved on to entrepreneurs and startups and leaders of leaders, what I call people that are making an impact and people that are influencing the world. Now, the thing is that since I am a ferocious reader and I am a very curious person, many, many years ago, over 30 years ago, I read 3 books. I read a book by Viktor Frankl that was called The Man's Search for Meaning. I was introduced to Joseph Campbell, that I learned all about the myths of life. And then I was introduced to my guru, my mentor, to Carl Gustav Jung. And he taught me about archetypes, and he taught me about shadows. And when I read the accumulation of these 3 mentors and their books, something within me started to stir, and something within me made me think. And what came about was the people that I was coaching, they were suffering from shadows. They were suffering from certain gaps in their leadership, and yet they were certain archetypes. And I started to listen to my clients, and this is what I noticed, Meredith, that even though I was coaching in Europe, a client was talking to me about wanting to do great things in the world, but they suffered from confidence. Then I would go to Asia, and they would talk to me about not having the confidence they needed in order to lead millions of people in their organization. And whatever country I went to, whatever state I went to, I kept hearing the same pattern over and over again. And before I knew it, there were 7 archetypes that were coming across from each individual. But within those individuals that were having these archetypes, these greatness, there was a gap. And I noticed this pattern, and I started to write things down and started to study things, and I started to research things. And that's how I came up with the system. It wasn't something that I said, oh, you're this archetype. The leaders of leaders that I was coaching, the people that I was coaching around the world were telling me about the patterns. They were showing me their behaviors and what was happening that was causing them their greatness. And I was just the observer. I was the witness of what was going on, and yet I was just taking it down as research. And once I had all this data, once I had all this information, all of a sudden it was like, wow, this makes sense. This is happening across everyone. It doesn't matter if they're leading 10,000 people or they're leading 5. Everybody suffers from the same patterns.
You know, that's so fascinating. To me, you have a gift that you're not totally acknowledging at this moment, but in saying you put it together, and that is being able to synthesize those observations, because some people are very good at handling a specific situation and addressing whatever, you know, issues are inherent in that work with that one leader. But to do what you did, which is to notice those patterns and then put them together, I think to me is just one of your gifts and strengths, and your ability to articulate them so well in the book is very compelling. I'm curious how you came up with or derived the gap that's associated with each of those archetypes.
So in conversation, let's say, and it would be easier if I was to explain an archetype and then I can put it with a story maybe in order
That'd be perfect. Yeah, why don't you pick just one? Because I know there are 7 and we don't have time to get into all of them. So pick one that you think would be relevant to most folks that would be watching this.
Absolutely. So in one of my coaching with one of my clients, what I noticed was that people were coming to him with challenges, and as a leader, he thought he needed to solve everybody's problem. And he was exhausted and he was stressed, and it was costing him in his greatness, meaning he didn't have time to be who he needed to be because he was fixing everything around his organization. And so I introduced him to this concept that you have a choice. I said to him, you can stand in your greatness or you can lead from your gaps. And he said, what do you mean? So I explained to him about the 2 archetypes. The archetype of the navigator. The navigator is someone who people come to them for problems. People come when they're in crisis. And the navigator is very good at thinking of a practical and pragmatic solutions. But guess what? They don't tell people what to do. What they do is they steer through a problem. They guide them through a problem. They coach them through a problem. They ask open-ended questions by listening, right? And because that is true, people trust this leader. People trust them. But the gap is that sometimes when people come to you with problems, what do? You want to fix it. You tell people what to do and how to do it and when to do it and why to do it. And when you do that, you come across as arrogant. You come across as disempowering people. But if you navigate, you empower people. So you always have you can always ask yourself this question, Meredith. You can ask yourself, do I want to stand in my greatness as a navigator, or do I want to lead from my gap as a fixer who comes across arrogant? Knowing this system, this little simple question can pivot you, can have you make a choice within the moment, what kind of leader you want to be, what kind of person you want to be.
That's such an excellent example, and I love the way you framed it with those 2 questions, because I think that for all of us, we would choose the greatness aspect, and yet in a moment we can fall into an old habit. Or like you had mentioned when you and I were talking, the idea of stress can cause us to revert to a way of being that doesn't serve us or others as effectively. So what would you suggest for someone when they're faced with these 2 choices? How do you navigate through that process of choosing the better way?
Okay. First of all, great questions, Meredith. So I'm happy you're asking this because I'm sure it's on everybody's mind. What do you do, right? This is true for all of us. And like you said so brilliantly, it happens when we're stressed. Nobody wants to walk around saying, I'm arrogant, I'm a fixer, right? But it happens when we're stressed. We're having when all these distractions and everything is coming to us all at once. You just want to get rid of things. So what do? You fix it. But how do you leverage the fixer? That's the $1,000,000 question, right? What do you do? The first thing is you have to fix the fixer. Now, what do I mean by that is you have to find out what are the trigger points of being a fixer. For most of us, me included, for most of us who are fixers, there's a reason why we are fixers. We want to be appreciated. We want to be validated. We want people to recognize us for our qualities. So what we do is when someone comes with a problem, all of a sudden we're going to tell them what to do because, wow, they're going to appreciate us. They're going to recognize how smart we are. And what we have to do is draw the line in the sand and say, you know what? If someone comes to us with a problem, I don't need to be liked, appreciated, and loved in this moment. I would rather empower them. So the first thing I need to do is stop and listen. Listen to what someone is saying. Ask open-ended questions instead of jumping in and trying to fix it. You'll be more validated. You'll be more appreciated. You'll be more recognized for being a great navigator than being a fixer in the moment. So that's a very powerful thing that you could do.
You know, as I was hearing you describe that, of course, I'm nodding. Absolutely, that is true. And I think that that is great advice for all 7 of the archetypes. That and to me, what else is required is getting my ego out of the way. I have to set aside what that part of me might be driving me to say or do at that moment out of a need for gratifying myself. If I can focus on really what will serve this other person the best or this group of people the best, it seems like that's a theme that runs throughout all of your archetypes, and the gaps in terms of solving that is this whole focus on what others might need from me at the moment that wouldn't be necessarily a quick fix.
I love what you said about ego. I always say to my clients, what does ego stand for? It means edging greatness out.
Perfect.
Right? So when you come from your ego, you're edging greatness out. But when you come with a servant heart, if you're thinking about others, you're serving others, it gives you everything that you want in life. It gives you greatness. And I want to clarify what I mean by greatness. When I talk about greatness, I mean meaning, I mean purpose, I mean significance. In a way, it's about what you're meant to do in the world. That's what I mean by greatness. And I don't mean, I'm not talking about greatness and success. I'm talking about what you long for and what you yearn for. That's what I mean when I talk about success. And that's what I mean when I talk about greatness.
Yes, and that comes across so clearly in your writing in terms of who you are and what you're really devoted to helping your clients do. And one of the things I also love about the book is the way you balance, leading from within as far as your heart as well as your head. Those 2 aspects really seem to be equally important for you, whereas in business that left brain head seems to come up. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So I want to talk about that, and I'm happy you brought that up. See, most people always concentrate, either talk about only your strength and don't talk about your weaknesses. Talk about how great you are in personal relationships, but don't talk about the hard skills, soft skills, hard skills, good, bad, dark, light. People don't want to understand that in order to be a whole human being, we have to be all of it. We have to take our mind and we have to take our heart. We have to take what's great and we have to leverage our gaps. We have to take what's dark about us and what's light about us and encompass all of that and embody all of that, because otherwise we're fragmented human beings and a whole person is an integration of everything. So I think the head is just as important as the heart. And I think the heart is just important as the head, but also the greatness and the gaps play the same importance.
And I love that's such a key point related to the gaps, because and the thoughts that were going through my mind, or the words were judging, self-criticism. We're constantly evaluating something as good or bad. And I think we can fall into being critical of ourselves if we start seeing these gaps as a bad thing, as opposed to what you've described them as, an area of becoming more self-aware, so that you don't have to be afraid of it, or denying it, or pretending that it's not a part of who you are. So what would be some encouragement that you could give people about embracing those gaps, so that we can move away from that negative feeling about them?
So one thing to understand about our gaps is also a learning lesson. They're our teachers, right? If we don't like something awful in someone else, it means that sometimes when we're under stress, we're acting that way. If something bothers us about someone, it's saying it's within us too. I think our gaps, more than anything else, teach us more about who we are when we're not at our best than our greatness, because it's easy to help someone, to be of service to someone, because it comes easy to us. But when life gets complicated, and it does, how do we show up? Do we show up in our greatness, or do we lead from our gaps? Most of us tend to lead from our gaps because we're stressed out and we want to get it right and we want to be in control. And so when we do that, we mean well, but we're still leading from our gaps. And so what I mean by leveraging is, I really want people to learn how to embrace all parts of yourself. I'm not perfect, but let's celebrate my imperfections too. That's what our gaps are.
I love that. And I think when I look at the totality of your book and what you've produced, it's such a wonderful guide for people, because you're very clear about what the archetype is and then what the gap is. But your stories are just profound. And you have so many of them, so there's no misunderstanding, or it's not at the conceptual level. It's not like it's academic. It's very real. You tell very poignant stories excuse me, about how some people have experienced these gaps and the lessons they've learned from them about themselves. And I think that anyone who's in a leadership role owes it to himself or herself to read your book, because I do believe that it's unique in its in the message that you send, and just your style of writing is so engaging, and it was hard to put down. I wanted to keep reading and see what's next, because each one of those I think is insightful. And talk to the fact that we're not one archetype. We're not trying to identify which archetype am I, so that you help people understand the purpose of the 7.
I'm so happy that you asked that, because most people will be thinking, Meredith, which archetype am I? Let me read this book because I need to know which archetype. What's really profound about this book, and what makes this book really different, is that these 7 archetypes are situational. Meaning that at any given moment, whatever challenge you're in, whatever circumstances you're in, you could ask yourself, which archetype do I need to be? Am I going to be the navigator or the fixer? Am I going to be the rebel or the imposter? Within a moment, by just asking that question, you're asking yourself, will I stand in my greatness, or will I lead from my gap? And if you could make that choice, you could unleash the greatness within you. You can, and that's what makes this so great. Learn the Rethink system so you can choose how you live your life.
That's great. I love that, because the other takeaway is there are so much value in what you're teaching in your book, which is so practical, but it also applies just to our everyday lives. It's not like we're compartmentalizing ourselves as, I'm a leader, so this only applies to work. It's how we're showing up in the world in every aspect of our lives. And I think it's profound. It's one of those books that as you read it, you start thinking of specific situations in your own life that you've been at one extreme or the other, you know, the very best of greatness or the very worst of the other. Whether you've behaved that way or not, there you identify with it because you have thought these things. And then after reading it, there was still that, and to me that's a sign of a good book. If it makes me keep thinking about the concepts, the ideas, after I've closed the book and I'm back in life and I'm encountering a situation where something that you've written still resonates with me, I think that's the power of a book to transform lives. And I think that's the kind of book that you've written. And I'm so grateful to you for having put forth the effort and the thought in all of the things that you've written, the stories as well as the structure, to make it so memorable.
Thank you so much, Meredith. It's life's work, right? And
Absolutely.
the stories that I have lived with individuals that were seeking greatness themselves, it's their lives that are in this book.
So tell us how we can get a copy of your book.
So you can go to the leadershipgapbook.com and you could order the book and order it for anybody that loves and breathes leadership and anybody that wants to make an impact in the world and wants to make a difference in the world. And I think that's everyone. It's funny because my daughter had the galley of my book and she passed it around to some of her friends in college and they were like, wow, I love this book. This makes sense for me. So it's 18-year-olds to 90-year-olds and beyond. This book is for everyone who wants to lead and unleash with greatness.
That's great. So thank you so much. Tell us the website again.
theleadershipgapbook.com.
Okay, theleadershipgapbook.com. Lolly, thank you so much for being with me today and sharing the essence of your book as well as the essence of who you are. You're just a remarkable human being, and we're so lucky that you have synthesized all this information in such an important book that I hope everyone listening here will read and buy a copy for those others that are important to them.
All the nice things you said about me lives within you. Thank you, Meredith. Greatness lies within you.
Thank you, Lolly.